right, let's connect now with Dr. Bernard Tetteh-Dumanya. He's a financial economist. Again, we're expanding the tentacles of this conversation. Doc, hello, good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to your listeners.
I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, very well. Sorry, I'm driving, so I don't know whether the network will survive.
Well, so far so good. We can hear you loud and clear. Let's kick off the conversation about these 10% tariffs that have been slapped on Ghana and other nationals by the U.S. Does it come as a surprise to you?
Not at all. Knowing Donald Trump, he's a business person, and he's running U.S. as a business, and not as a politician. So he's not doing the good things, but rather, like he kept on saying, American first. And that is exactly what he's doing.
From his perspective, he thinks that America has been treated unfairly, like you're saying, from a business perspective. Do you agree with that assertion?
100% I agree. I think that we should start learning from Donald Trump. He may not be politically correct, but what he's doing, it may have its own repercussions. But largely, I think he's trying to save American businesses.
What are the immediate economic implications of this 10% tariff on Ghana exports to the U.S.?
Well, you realize that we import everything. The Ghana economy is heavily reliant on exports such as cocoa, crude oil, and textiles. So for me, there are a few things that it will be, like broader economic implications. For example, competitiveness. In other words, additional costs imposed by the tariff may make Ghanaian products less competitive as compared from those countries subject to similar tariffs. When you look at the economic growth issues, given the significance of exports to Ghana GDP, will definitely reduce access to the U.S. market. Market could slow down economic growth, and this means that it's going to affect government revenues if there's any. And probably the third one would be diversification pressure. The tariff, and that is the aspect that I'm coming from. Maybe a good thing to compare Ghana to start diversify its export market and reduce reliance on the U.S. And this means that we need to find a new way and a new approaches to sign agreements with other countries that they may be friendly to Ghanaian commodities.
Now, my next question is twofold. How significant is the U.S. as a trade partner for Ghana? And by your estimation, which sectors are likely to be hardest hit?
Well, if you ask me personally, I don't think that our trade relations with the U.S. is too much significant as compared with China and other countries. And therefore, it's kind of, the impact will not be felt that much as other countries like China, Brazil, and the countries that deal with U.S. Now, my thinking is that once this is done, it's also a way, like I said before, to help our imports. Basically, we have BOPs, we have deficit, and therefore we will start looking at how much we import from these countries in order to save the economy. So it's a double-edged sword. The other thing, which is also coming very strongly, is Ghanaians' desire to all the time utilize, when I say utilize, like enjoy foreign commodities, etc. So it depends, but largely it is a way to also start with thinking outside the box as to how we can grow our economy without dependence on any other country. Basically, that is what it means.
So you think that this could be the cure for that appetite, that large appetite for foreign goods? Now, my other question was which sectors do you think would be hardest hit by these 10% tariff?
Well, it could be automobiles, that sector, because we import a lot of American cars. I don't have the figures here. And then probably most of the things that we call them luxury goods here in Ghana. So other building materials that are imported from US also can be hit.
Right.
But as an agrarian economy, food and other things are not largely from those areas. So that will be something that we can safeguard or will be within. But anything that leads to the processing, I think it will be things that the prices of those items will definitely go up.
And what do you say to the issue of currency depreciation? Could this tariff lead to further depreciation?
Not at all. You see, America has about 36 trillion debt, they themselves. What is saving America is the fact that they have what we call a reserve currency, that's the dollar.
Right.
Now, the fundamental thing about currency depreciation is your balance of payment. When you import more than you export, there will be a problem. And therefore, like we said from the beginning, if we start looking at a homegrown solution and the demand supply, the demand on the dollar is less than what we supply, it will drive prices down. You realize that the Ministry of Finance is not doing anything on the treasury bill market. He's just picking exactly how much he needs. So you see, the financial institution will send so much into the market and you pick exactly what you need. And that is what has driven the prices down. So if we indeed want our city to be stronger, then we should look at that aspect of demand and supply when it comes to balance of payment. And therefore, for me, it depends on our outlook and how the handlers of the economy look at this. It will not have that impact so much on the economy. Unless we continue to import and demand the dollar. If that happens, then it's going to hurt us.
Let's talk about the impact then on small and medium enterprises in export-driven industries like cocoa, in textile. How do you see these tariffs having an impact?
Well, basically, you see, I kept on saying, even though we have the agua, but the question is, how much do we export in that sector? For me, it's not much, because sometimes we don't meet the standards and we have problems of those standards. Two, there are other markets that may also demand our products or commodities, which I think we should start looking at that. So small businesses, yes, but as to what quantum do we send to American market is a question that we need to look at. You'll be surprised that we trade with other countries more than America. But because America is America, that's why we are seeing that. And therefore, it's opportunity to look at other avenues as a small businesses rather than always looking at America. We need to find a way to divorce America from most of these trade partners. Yes, they have a larger market, but Nigeria equally has a larger market that our small businesses can partner and do business with them. So it gives us a second reason. I don't follow the traditional book of saying that when tariffs do this, then we come and speak big grammar. That is not what we are looking for. We are looking at the realities on the ground. And I think that once we're able to put our hearts together, we should be able to minimize the impact or the effect on our industries.
I mean, because you bring our economic situation at this point, from where you sit, given the we've had a change of government, we have listened to the very first budget reading, the forecasted figures. Does that inspire confidence in you? And I'm juxtaposing that against these tariffs as we look to 2025.
Let me give this scenario. If you ask me to jump 1 meter hurdle, I may not be able to jump. But if there is a lion now chasing me, my adrenaline goes up and I should be able to jump it. And that is what I'm seeing what Donald Trump is doing currently. If we really want to succeed in growing our economy, then this is the opportunity to bring the think tank and everybody on board to be able to look for the homegrown solution. So for me, that's why I say it's a double-edged sword. It's partly good and partly bad. Partly good because it now will strengthen us to know and find other means. We in Ghana are too comfortable on the way we go up. We are not aggressive enough to be able to drive our economy. And this mentality of hoping that, and when I heard they say USA has canceled aid to gain, then we started crying. What should we cry? Why don't we get our own homegrown solution? We have the resources, we have the people, we have the men, we have what it takes to be able to get our own homegrown solution. The question comes of priority. And I kept on saying that we are comfortable because we want everything free. And this dispensation, we shouldn't be doing that. So it's good. For me, why it's good that we should now start thinking, how do we make this thing work and how our economy helps our people to survive. America is in a very difficult situation. You see, what is happening is that prices of items will go up, and because it's going to impact on individuals, their purchasing power reduces. They will cut down expenditure, and if they don't take it, they'll go into recession. That's what the other side of it. But we still have opportunity to boost, and one of the things that the government has done, this e-levy thing, betting and all those things, is the idea to put more money into the citizenry to increase their disposable income. And once you spend, the economy will come back to life. So it's good and bad depending on where you stand and your capabilities. I think that Ghana, we have all that it takes to be able to anchor all this, and we stop blaming other trade war and all those things. I don't think that is realistic when we start doing that.
So would you say then, given what... would you say then that Ghanaian businesses and industries are simply not taking full advantage of regional and international trade agreements? We've talked about what's going on in our very own continent. From where you sit, what is the biggest barrier? Time without number, these conversations emerge, and we talk about how we are not taking full advantage. What exactly is the issue?
The issue is that we prefer to look at anything color to that of our own. That's the first thing. We have after here in Ghana, and how much trade are we trading with ourselves? Let me give you an example. If I want to travel to even Cote d'Ivoire, sometimes you have to go to France before you come back. Is it fair? If I want to go by air, I have to go to France before I get a flight to Cote d'Ivoire. So we are still stuck in this shell that we are not able to do. And I like what President Mahama is doing of late, trying to reach out to other countries. Please, let's start trading among ourselves. And we should follow suit as businesses. Look, Ghana Commercial Bank is the biggest bank probably in Ghana. How many branches do they have outside Ghana? Have you thought of that? How many of our companies have tried to venture into that? So there must be a way to start a little bit. And then it will help the government to create the enabling environment for us to foster trade relationships. So until we Africans or even the sub-region start trading, I don't think that we'll make any headway. So it's not anybody's making. We must start talking from the political to the economic among ourselves, and then I'm sure that it will open up. Look at what Burkina Faso is doing. Some of the things when you read, you get shocked. And this is a young man, he doesn't have any political training or anything. But he's using the common sense approach in order to make the life of his people better. I think that is what we have to be doing.
You're right,
Doc. Work on what we call the needs first for our people. Then we can move on to the wants, which we assume is luxury. Then we move on to the other arena. So we must start looking at the fundamental things that will help us to trade among ourselves, and then from there we can take it.
Certainly, Doc. You mentioned Burkina Faso. A lot has been said about what is going on, especially with agriculture. And recently I was reading about the tomato paste industry that is springing up in Burkina Faso. And on the continent, it appears it's been received very positively and one that other countries could emulate. So on home soil, what can government do to create a more business-friendly environment to support local entrepreneurs, support SMEs?
I think the government is doing the right. The first one is also to look at TIDA. Consider TIDA, what will they do to help to strengthen the public sector. The state-owned enterprises must also be up and doing. And once they kickstart the road, the private sector will follow. The second thing is that government should be able to create this enabling environment for the private entities. Access to credit is high. Cost of production is high. So government should sit down and discuss with the market operators. We have GUTA, we have AGI, etc. What is it exactly that is killing them? What I don't want government to do is that AGI or GUTA or this association should not think that it's government support and therefore they can misuse it. Government should be able to crack the whip in areas, even private entities, that they may misuse or misapply those support, whether it be technical assistance or money. So a whole holistic approach must be looked at. We heard of the Women's Bank. I don't know how is it going now. But these are some of the things that we need to put the structures in place. What we lack as a people, as Ghanaians, is that we don't have the enabling environment. When we say we want to go to 5G, for example, do we have infrastructure to support that? And therefore, once we go onto it, because the infrastructure is there, infrastructure is not there, then you see that the services will not be utilized like we wanted. So first, government should sit down and say that I'm going to create this enabling environment for you. How do you fit into this enabling environment? And I'm sure that once that discussion is there, the strategy will come out and we'll be able to do that. Let me be quick to say that there wouldn't be one off textbook solution for this, but there will be several solutions that can be addressed holistically to help us prevent some of these eventualities and also improve how our small businesses will strive. And I think once we have that conversation, we should be able, but we should strengthen them, because if you go to countries like Germany, they are all family businesses, and government support them. I am on my way to travel. I know a country where I'm going Sunday, for example. The moment you open SME, the government gives you up to $250,000 as a support. You know, and it encourages people with entrepreneurial spirit to go. There are people who have ideas. There are people who have thoughts, but they don't have any that support. Those are the things that I want government to look at it critically and see how best they can help the individuals to be able to set up.
Certainly, Doc. Thank you so much for making time with us, for us this morning, and for expanding the tentacles of this conversation. Do have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you also for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was Dr. Bernard Tetteh-Dumanya, financial economist, weighing in on this issue of Trump slapping 10% tariffs on Ghana and other nations in a new trade strategy. Now, as the policy takes effect, African leaders, trade analysts, and businesses will be watching closely to assess how these sweeping changes will impact economies in the months ahead. Of course, we will put you front and center as far as these pertinent issues are concerned.